to Jerry in Beaver Lodge, Alberta.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
Good. Good. Hey, just a quick shout out. Actually, we met at the auction supper in Austin at the convention, but you won't remember. You meet people, so many.
Well, I'll be back in Alberta.
In Vancouver.
I'll be in Vancouver, but I'm also coming to Alberta later this year as well.
Oh, fantastic. I'm an atheist, and just recently started to have some debates with some family members that are theists. It's not going so well, but we're hopefully mature people and work through it. But one of my angles
if they haven't stopped talking to you,
you're in good shape.
You're doing all right.
Yeah. My argument I've never heard before was on the Abraham story. I used the argument I've heard before that God changed his mind, and I got corrected by my sister-in-law.
Yeah.
She said he would never change his mind. It was a test.
Uh-huh.
And so, of course, the argument goes on. It was a wicked test, and that it goes on down that line. But I will further the conversation one day with her, talking about how Isaac must have felt. I believe is the name of the son.
Yeah, they tend to just portray Isaac as if he were asleep for the whole thing so that he wasn't traumatized, or they just disregard it and don't really care about Isaac's trauma because God makes everything better in the end.
Right. And in the passage, I don't think it says went to sleep. He was bound and put over the altar, I believe. But
so your sister or your sister-in-law, whichever it was, is actually probably correct. But there's a bigger problem with the Abraham-Isaac story that for some reason just keeps getting overlooked in these conversations. Something other than the potential trauma to Isaac or even Abraham and telling somebody to kill their son. And that's this. God's going to do a test. He didn't change his mind. He had this all planned out from the beginning. Now, what's the purpose of the test? It can't be for God to find out whether or not Abraham will obey, because he already knows that. He's God. So the test must be for Abraham's benefit. And so if we're going to do a test for Abraham's benefit, what are we testing for? Well, we're not just testing to see if he's obedient, because he knows whether or not he's going to be obedient, although he might not be completely aware of it. If anything, we're testing that Abraham understands the character of God and is willing to follow his instructions.
Right.
And so that when God gives Abraham an instruction, Abraham knows that it's coming from God, and he's willing to obey, and boom, you've got this trust scenario.
Right.
However, if God comes to Abraham and says, hey, I want you to kill your son. Now, in Abraham's head, there's some model of God. Now, either the model of God in Abraham's head includes the possibility that God could and would ask him to kill his son, or Abraham's God model excludes that. Now, if Abraham's God model excludes that, basically, my God's good, there's no way my God would ask me to kill my son, then when God comes to him and asks him to do that, the only correct answer from Abraham is, depart from me, evil spirit, you can't possibly be my God, because my God would never ask me to do that. That would be the only correct answer.
Right.
Which means that Abraham's internal God model included the idea that God could and would ask him to kill his son. And God rewarded that model, which means that God wanted Abraham to have in his head the idea that he could and would ask him to kill his son. So he's rewarding a model that is in conflict with what he wants to portray.
Right.
That's just stupid.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
That's like if I didn't want my wife to have sex with somebody else, and I went up to her and said, hey, go have sex with that person over there, and she'd say, you don't want me to do that. Or maybe she'd say, oh yeah, you want me to do that, and we'll do that. So is her perception of who I am correct or not?
Right.
So the test passed, which means Abraham's model of God is correct, and that means that the God of Abraham could and would demand child sacrifice, as he accepted Jephthah's child sacrifice.
Right.
But that's not too out of character for the Old Testament, right?
Well, yeah, not if he's going to run around killing everybody.
It's pretty odious character.
Right. No, I like where you went with that. It's more information, and I wish she would listen to this dialogue, because she's a real believer, and although, she can be if she wants to be, I just don't like indoctrination of children, and I know where it could lead is to some issues, mental issues down the road, right? So
yeah.
Not always.
I was indoctrinated, as was nearly everybody I knew.
Yeah, no, I suppose it's just the fear of hell and all the things that can go with misunderstanding the whole heaven and hell issues. So,
yeah, I think the overwhelming majority of people come out the other side okay, despite religious instruction, or in some cases because of it.
Right.
But yeah, I also hear from atheists who've been atheists for 50 years who wake up in the middle of the night with nightmares of hell because of what they were taught when they were kids.
Right. Well, thanks for taking my call. I actually will try and say hello in Vancouver. And when's the dates in Alberta that you're coming to?
I don't know.
Okay.
But it's sometime this summer or fall.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for taking my call, guys. And,
sure. Thanks.
Enjoy the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.